Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the League of Women Voters on this very important event, the debate of the candidates who are running for 3 seats on the Arizona Corporation Commission. We are delighted you're spending your Sunday afternoon with us, and we're very excited to have the candidates here to answer questions that are important to members of the League and the general public. There are 8 candidates seeking your vote for 3 seats in the general election on November 5th. This is a partisan election, and the candidates presenting have secured a spot on the ballot after winning their primaries or their primaries. So my name is Penny Sharan. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Arizona, and joining me today are 2 experienced moderators, Mark Giles and Cindy Hans. Mark and Cindy are proud members of the local League of Women Voters of Metro Phoenix. Additionally, League members helping today are timekeepers and spotlighters. Andrea Mosley is running the slide deck and managing the time that you will see on the bottom right corner of your screen, and Grace Thiesfeld is our league member who is managing the spotlights and making sure you are spotlighted candidates as you speak. In support in the back end, who you may not see during the debate, but we want you to be aware of, doing the due diligence of managing the attendees and making sure your questions are curated in the back end is Cindy Walsh and April Lewis. On that front, we would like for you all to be sure you use the Q&A feature of this webinar in order to ask your questions. We will not be answering questions in the chat. We ask you to restrain and use the chat primarily if there are some technical issues. As we all know, in this time of virtual events, there are invariably some technical issues or not, and we promise the candidates we're going to be flexible in helping them work through this. The League of Women Voters is an all-volunteer, nonpartisan organization that neither supports nor opposes any political party or candidate. Our mission is to empower voters. We envision a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, and the knowledge, and the confidence to participate, where every citizen is registered, informed on all candidates and issues, and votes. Since 1920, the League has provided education and advocacies on issues of the day. A few words about the role of the League as a moderator for debates and debates themselves. The League provides extensive training for members who serve as moderators to ensure that we strictly adhere to the League's commitments to impartiality and nonpartisanship. Members of the League of Women Voters of Arizona wrote the debate questions with input from the members, partners, and communities in the local League service areas. The purpose of this debate is for each audience member to hear the candidates explain why they would be the best choice for serving on the Arizona Corporation Commission. Our goals for this debate are fairness, civility, and engagement. I will now turn the debate over to our moderator, Mark Giles and Cindy Hans, and Mark will be our lead moderator. Thank you, Mark.
Welcome everyone today. Thank you. And before we begin the debate, I would like to start by telling you a little bit about the Arizona Corporation Commission. The Arizona Corporation Commission plays a vital role in our state's infrastructure and economy. Its mission encompasses several key responsibilities: ensuring safe, reliable, and affordable utility services for all Arizonans, overseeing the safe operation and maintenance of our railroad and pipeline systems, fostering economic growth by assisting local entrepreneurs in realizing their dreams of starting new businesses, modernizing government agencies to be more efficient, effective, and responsive to the needs of the public, and protecting citizens by enforcing an ethical and transparent securities marketplace. Established under Article 15 of the Arizona Constitution, the Commission is unique in that it operates with executive, legislative, and judicial powers. In its executive capacity, It enforces regulations and oversees compliance. Legislatively, it adopts rules and regulations that govern utilities and other entities within its jurisdiction. Judiciously, it acts as a tribunal, making decisions on contested matters and disputes. The Commission is constitutionally mandated to maintain its chief office in Phoenix and is required by law to hold monthly meetings to conduct its business openly. Commissioners serve 4-year terms and may be re-elected for an additional term. Should a vacancy occur, the governor appoints a replacement who serves until the next general election. Among themselves, the commissioners elect a chairman to lead the commission. Their ultimate responsibilities include making final decisions on granting or denying rate adjustments for utilities, which directly affects consumer bills. Enforcing safety and public service requirements to ensure that companies operate in the public best interest. Approving securities matters, thereby safeguarding investments and maintaining confidence in Arizona's financial markets. Essentially, the Arizona Corporation Commission is a cornerstone of our state's commitment to public welfare, economic vitality, and the fair regulation of essential services. Its multifaceted role ensures that as Arizona grows, it does so with a foundation of integrity, safety, and opportunity for all. Now about the candidates. 8 candidates are seeking your vote for 3 seats in the general election on November 5th. The candidates elected in November will serve a 4-year term. All of the candidates were invited, and 7 of the 8 candidates accepted. Renee Lopez did not attend today. First, a little housekeeping. Each of our 7 candidates present will be asked 5 questions. Therefore, they will not have time to answer all the questions live from the audience. During the webinar, the questions asked for each candidate will be displayed on the screen. Additionally, a timer will be visible at the bottom left of the display. The candidates will be queued with 30-second, 10-second warnings displayed next to the timer. And when the stop sign appears, they will need to finish the sentence. The timekeeper will then mute their audio. Attendees should use the Q&A feature, as Penny mentioned, to post any questions you may have, and the host will share these with the candidates after the event. Our timekeepers from the league, who you met earlier, Andrea and Grace, have the role of keeping us all on time. Once the timekeeper starts the clock, the sign for 30 seconds, 10 seconds of stop will display. Candidates, please do not speak until spotlighted when you see the 10-second sign. Prepare to close out your sentence, and once you see the stop sign, please end your sentence immediately. The audience will forgive you, and we will automatically move on and mute if necessary. The format for this afternoon is in 3 parts. Part 1, an opening question. I will call on each candidate to answer this opening question, and each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds for this section. Part 2, prepared questions. The League of Women Voters has 5 questions prepared for the candidates. Cindy and I will introduce the questions, and they will also be shown on the screen. Each candidate will have no longer than 1 minute per question. When deemed appropriate, a 30-second rebuttal to another candidate may be offered by the moderator. This is permitted only if the candidate was called on by name during another candidate's response. And each candidate has the right to refuse to rebut. Part 3, closing remarks. I will close the questioning, and candidates will have 1 minute to answer why voters should vote for them. We will begin closing statements about 3:25 to ensure that we end on time at 3:40. Guidelines. Finally, I need to review the agreed guidelines for this debate. Candidates have been informed not to use their cell phones during the debate. The moderator will determine the order of speaking and responding. The candidates will send the questions in advance. Candidates will remain muted until called upon to speak. Time limits on responses will be strictly observed. The candidates have been informed of the cues to end remarks. The recording of this debate is the property of the League, and the permission must be sought to rebroadcast the debate or portions of the entire broadcast. The moderator's role is to manage the debate fairly for all candidates and their audience, and to keep the discussion moving forward. The candidates have all agreed in advance to be courteous and respectful of each other's point of view, and to refrain from interrupting each other and avoid personal attacks. The moderator's decision is final, and we reserve the right to pause or adjourn the debate and cut question time short to remind us of all the guidelines and expectation of civility in the behavior of the candidates and the audience. We also urge all of our candidates to participate in the League's voter guide website, vote411.org. The League created this platform to provide voters with answers to questions and information about all the candidates. That's vote411.org. Now I'd like to ask each candidate to introduce himself and explain to the audience the most important responsibilities of the Arizona Corporation Commission. Please describe your qualifications to serve on this board, and as stated, you'll have 1 minute, 30 seconds each. I'll call each of you in order, and please wait to speak until you're properly spotlighted. Our first candidate, Elena Aguilar.
Hi, good afternoon, Arizona, and thank you very much to the League of Women Voters for organizing this, and for everyone that is watching today. Thank you very much for taking your Sunday to watch. My name is Elena Aguilar, and I am one of the candidates for the Democratic Party. I am a mom, I'm an advocate, I'm a former school board member, and currently serve you on the Central Arizona Water Conservation District Board. I'm running for the Arizona Corporation Commission because families like mine are unable to continue to live in Arizona with the current Republican Corporation Commission leadership. Did you know that we have just experienced the coldest summer in Arizona? Yes, that is very real. It will continue to get hotter each year, and we cannot exist in the state without electricity and without water. With costs currently continuing to increase, we cannot afford to elect Republicans again. The current Republican Commission approved hundreds of millions of dollars in utility rate increases since 2023. We need an experienced leader who will uphold the Constitution that established the Arizona Corporation Commission's job to ensure that we get the best deal possible from the utilities for the ratepayers and have a safe, reliable grid. And I want to be that voice for you. And I want to ensure that we are getting the best deal possible for our ratepayers and not like in line with the utilities. Thank you.
Our second candidate, Mike Cease.
Hi, I'm Mike Cease, Green Party candidate for ACC. Companies must be held accountable. Weapons companies are complicit in U.S.-Israeli war crimes, genocide, and horrible atrocities against the Palestinian people in Gaza. 40,000 people, mostly women and children, have been murdered. 200,000 people have died. In the midst of a mega drought here in Arizona, agribusiness companies waste enormous quantities of precious water to grow unsustainable crops in the desert, such as cotton. Hudbay Minerals Corporation and Resolution Copper companies are in the process of destroying southern and northern Arizona mountain ranges with their environmentally devastating mining projects, and along with destroying Native American sites. My background is well suited to serve you as commissioner. I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in chemical engineering, and I'm a licensed professional engineer. Early in my career, I worked for what was then the Solar Energy Research Institute in Colorado. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Our next candidate to speak will be Jonathan Hill.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Jonathan Hill, and I'm one of your candidates for the Arizona Corporation Commission. I believe that one of their most important responsibilities of the commission is to regulate the state's monopolies. So all the companies that you don't have a choice of who you buy that product or service from. The state constitution created the commission in order to keep track of those monopolies and make sure that they serve the public interest. So personally, my background is not in politics. This is my first time running for office. For the last 18 years, I've worked at Arizona State University on the Tempe campus, working on a number of NASA space missions. including the Mars rovers and a Jupiter mission that's getting ready to launch in about 4 weeks. And I began on the engineering side of those missions. My master's degree is in aerospace engineering, but over time, I really became passionate about the geology work we were doing on other planets. And so I switched tracks and got my PhD in geology. And that's the expertise that I personally want to bring to the commission, the engineering expertise when it comes to power generation and water distribution, but also the geology expertise when it comes to regulating our state's groundwater users. And so I look forward to answering all of the upcoming questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, candidate. Our next speaker will be Nina Luxemburg.
Nina, can you please turn on your camera?
Thank you, League of
Sorry,
Women Voters.
1 second, Nina. Yeah, there we go. Sorry, keep going.
Thank you, League of Women Voters, for this nonpartisan debate and for all you do to empower voters. I am Nina Luxemburg, Green Party candidate, and I am running for the commission to be part of the efforts to bring Arizona into a clean energy future. The ACC is responsible for modification of our current energy portfolio to implement climate change solutions as soon as possible, while preventing environmental contamination, ensuring adequate water supply, protecting our wildlife habitats, and preserving our culture-intact landscapes and sacred lands. ACC is responsible for greater transparency of safety standards, locations, construction, and maintenance of our transmission lines, railway systems, and pipelines. ACC is responsible for requiring private and public utilities and other businesses to follow an ethical code of conduct and to be accountable for their products and services. I am a physician, and for 40 years in healthcare, I have placed people over profit, and I will do the same as your commissioner. I talk about my concerns around the dinner table, but that's not going to get things done. I'm taking it to the public and running for office with a donation-free and conflict of interest-free campaign. I feel I have the science background, the analytical skills, and the moral compass to serve on the commission and to help the advancement of Arizona while safeguarding the health, safety, and economic security of you, your family, and our communities.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Leah Marquez-Peterson.
Thank you. I want to begin by thanking the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. We really appreciate it. My name is Leah Marquez-Peterson. I'm running to continue to serve Arizona on the Arizona Corporation Commission. I'm currently on the commission and the past chairwoman. I'm a wife and a mother and a former small business owner. I served as the president of the Tucson Hispanic Chamber for almost 10 years and worked with small businesses to help them grow and flourish. I've served on the commission for 5 years, and I'm proud of what we've accomplished on the commission. Arizona is a leader in energy reliability and affordability. We have some of the lowest energy costs in the nation, while also having one of the most reliable energy grids despite high energy demands. We have delivered reliable energy and much more affordable rates than neighboring states. I have a proven record of delivering results. For ratepayers, I've helped secure over $40 million in rebates for customers, as well as protect our most vulnerable citizens and seniors on a fixed income by continuing my support for no shutoffs during the summer months. We still have a lot of work to do, and you'll be hearing a lot of different promises and ideas tonight, but I think we need to ensure that what we're looking at is really based on reality and what we need to do in order to ensure that our energy is reliable. My focus over the next 4-year term will be on continuing my all of the above approach to providing reliable energy at the most affordable rates. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Our next candidate will be Joshua Polachek.
Good afternoon. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, and a big thanks to the voters listening live now or who are listening later on YouTube. My name is Joshua Polachek. I am one of the 3 Democratic nominees for the Arizona Corporation Commission. I'm a Tucson native, and I've come back home after nearly 20 years serving in national security because I believe that our state has a real opportunity to do better than what we've been doing under the last decade and a half of Republican leadership in this state. We have an opportunity, if we have the vision and the leadership, to ensure that the Arizona Corporation returns to its core constitutional duties of delivering affordable, reliable, and safe utilities to all citizens in the state. And you're going to hear again a lot of promises, a lot of look at our records, and we just ask you to think: are you happy with how things have been going for you? Are you happy with the bills that you got this summer, whether you're in Mojave or you're under APS? Are you happy with how the Corporation Commission has protected you, or would you like some new leadership there that's actually going to deliver to the people of Arizona? We have an opportunity now to do better, and the people of Arizona deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. And our next candidate is Rachel Walden. Oh, we'll wait for Rachel to come up. Sorry. If you can help us there, Grace, by putting Rachel up. Thank you. And you're on mute still, Rachel, it looks like. There you go.
I'm Rachel Walden. Thanks for being here today. I've lived in Arizona for 39 years, and I love this state. I went to ASU for my bachelor's degree, and then I went to ASU for graduate school, where I worked as a teaching assistant and research assistant. And in my career, I have 14 years in the financial services sector. For 10 of those years, I managed large market corporations. So I worked with legal and government regulations. I worked with auditing and compliance issues to make sure that our clients were best served and protected from breaking any laws and maximizing their efficiency and fees with Vanguard. So I got involved in politics because I was really concerned that my daughter was not going to grow up with the freedoms and rights that I grew up in. So I got involved first by running for the Mesa School Board, which is where I currently serve without compensation. And I've prioritized fiscal responsibility, academic achievement, and parental rights. On the commission, I think the biggest thing that the commission deals with is making sure that we have affordable and reliable energy at the least cost. I'm also the only commissioner that's been securities licensed that will be able to help in the cases because we oversee investment fraud, security fraud, and financial advisors, and I'll bring that experience to the table as well. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates, for your answers. We will now proceed with part 2 of the program, which is our prepared questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute.
I'm going to interrupt for just a very short second. Mark needs to make a couple of announcements, please. Okay, just stay on the line. Okay.
Sorry, Penny, might need some help. I'm not sure I have anything here, huh? Penny, was there something you thought we should do?
Yeah, I'll take it, Mark. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
2 items for all the candidates, Cindy and Mark, before you all start. The league rules are there'll be no campaign signs, whether you were in an in-person debate or virtual. This is not a rally, and we ask that you not display any campaign signs behind you. The second is we need all candidates to keep your spotlights on, please, because it's your video on so that our spotlighter can switch back and forth. I will turn it back to Cindy Hahn. Cindy, sorry for the interruption.
Thank you. Again, each candidate will have 1 minute to share their response to each of these prepared questions. The first question: what measures will you take to ensure the expedited build-out of renewable energy? The first candidate, Nina Luxembourg, please. I believe you're muted.
We need to modify our current energy portfolio from 70% fossil fuel and nuclear and 30% solar and wind to 100% renewable, solar, wind, and geothermal. State and federal funding is needed to establish public utilities that will serve the public. We need to incentivize homeowners to go solar. Let's bring back net metering, which the commission abolished in 2016. What we pay for energy at night should be less than or equal to what we get paid for by giving our surplus to the grid during the day. Right now, it's 2 times as much. We need to offer grants for energy storage, research and development, batteries, flywheel systems, and other possibilities, so eventually we can use solar around the clock. We need to engage the public to be on board. Let's be respectful of where to construct wind farms, transmission lines, solar installations, geothermal drilling, And let's avoid housing communities, schools, wildlife habitats, and culture intact landscapes.
Thank you. Our next candidate to speak, Elenia Aguilar.
Yes, the way that we ensure the expedited buildup of renewable energy is ensuring that we have the standards as a baseline to ensure that we have an affordable, reliable, and stable energy future and reduce our reliance on fossil fuels. And in order for that to happen, we need to look back at our past and ensure that back when the renewable energy standards were successful, it was because it required the utilities to do something they initially didn't want to. So they had to embrace clean, renewable energy. And thanks to bipartisan leadership on the commission in the late 2000s, utilities eventually embraced new technologies. And now solar energy plus storage in Arizona is by far the most affordable source of new power. So bringing back the standards is my answer, and ensuring that we are supporting those efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Mike Cease.
Direct subsidies enjoyed by the fossil fuel industry must be scrutinized and penalized in order for companies developing renewable energy to have a fair opportunity. Various measures, incentives for companies fostering renewable energy, sanctions and penalties for slow transition from fossil fuels, sanctions and penalties for energy waste, incentives for aggressive energy conservation measures, rebates for customers installing renewable solar and energy conservation. And finally, I wanted to add for information, a 1980 study at MIT showed that by penalizing energy waste and incentivizing energy conservation, that the US could have become fossil fuel import independent by the year 2000. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Leah Marquez Peterson.
Thank you very much. I support an all of the above approach to our energy mix in Arizona. That includes using all source RFPs. If you look at a recent example, Arizona Public Service, our largest regulated utility, had an all source RFP out for 1,000 megawatts. That ultimately ended with 700 of those megawatts being renewable energy. We need all of our energy resources to compete so that on an even playing field, so that we're focused on the reliable energy grid and affordability. And I think that's what Arizonans really want to see. In addition, I think we need to be streamlining business processes, which we've been working on at the commission, support third-party development of energy resources and renewable energy. And I do support the voluntary clean energy goals that have been set by our utilities, but not mandates. I think that unnaturally drives up the cost of energy for the state of Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Joshua Polachek.
What you'll hear tonight is often this talk of an all of the above approach. What that really is a mandate to keep using outdated technology that's more expensive and keeps Arizona's $5 billion a year reliance on out-of-state wholesale fossil fuel energy. The Arizona Corporation Commission should be a stable regulator and should not be picking winners and losers in the energy marketplace. Our friends on the other side of the aisle that currently control the Corporation Commission have decided that they are going to mandate that the utilities continue to use outdated technology with this so-called all of the above approach. The utilities see what's better, they see what's cheaper and more affordable to the people of Arizona, but as long as their regulators keep telling them that they have to do an all of the above approach, we're going to continue our dependence on these global supply chains. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, please, Rachel Walden.
Hi. So we do have 30% renewables in Arizona. And the last 10 years, renewables were only able to meet demand one of those years. For 9 years, renewables could not meet the demand of energy. The only time renewables met the demand was in 2020 when we shut things down. When we closed schools and shuttered businesses and decided who got to work and who didn't work, yes, the demand for energy dropped and renewables were able to meet that. But as we go forward and we want a robust economy in Arizona and we want businesses to come here, we need to be able to provide reliable energy. Renewable is intermittent energy. There's definitely a place for it. And with the subsidies, it can be a lot cheaper to build new generation with renewables. But that doesn't mean that we're going to shutter coal plants that still have life in them, or the natural gas peaker plants that make sure we get through peak demand without having brownouts. Now, there is no mandate for an all of the above approach. It's just what works best to hedge against supply and demand issues and changing prices.
Thank you. Our last candidate for this question is Jonathan Hill.
So an often overlooked issue when it comes to renewable energy build out is transmission infrastructure. You can build as much renewable energy generating capacity as you want, but if you can't transmit that capacity to the urban centers where it's mostly used, it doesn't do any good. And so the commission has accelerated some transmission projects, but I think they need to be more aggressive, making sure we can get that energy to the people that need to use it. But at the same time, they need to be more open, transparent, and respectful of the communities that those transmission lines have to go through. Obviously, no one wants one of those in their backyard. They have to go somewhere, though, but the commission should be very open and transparent when discussing the pros and cons of the paths that they choose to run those transmission lines. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We'll now move on to question 2 of the prepared questions. How active should the ACC be in encouraging investment in and adoption of clean energy? We'll start this round with Mike Cease.
As your commissioner, I will use the tools of oversight on the ACC to fight climate change, end fossil fuel dependency, and foster development of renewable energy. Long existing hidden and direct taxpayer subsidies for the fossil fuel industry will be exposed, penalized, and sanctioned. These and other measures and actions will serve to incentivize the renewable energy industry to be able to compete on a fair playing field. Suitability for companies doing business in Arizona will be evaluated by these metrics. Thank you.
And our next candidate will be Rachel Walden.
So with clean energy, what we do with all energy sources is require that request for proposal. And there's 40 different sources of generation that the utilities can get in a bid. And then the ACC ensures that we are getting the most effective in terms of pricing, and then also factoring in reliability. So cost is very important, but we also have to have reliability. If the energy doesn't dispatch correctly at 60 hertz to the grid, that's when we see brownouts and hiccups that impacts manufacturing and cost. So we want our businesses to be able to operate here efficiently and not cause problems that will raise costs and pass that down to the consumer. So there's a place for clean energy, certainly, but there's still a place to have other sources of energy to make sure that we have that reliable base load that is so important to avoid hiccups in our energy. The commission reviews these plans every couple of years, and we make sure that the blueprint for Arizona's future is secure and affordable.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Elena Aguilar.
It is the job of the commission to set the standards for utility investments. The commission must set the bar for utility companies. As a candidate for the Corporation Commission, I believe the ACC should be very active in encouraging investment and adoption of clean energy by promoting policies that support renewable energy development. We can attract new investments, create jobs, and reduce our carbon footprint. The ACC can facilitate this transition by incentivizing renewables, streamlining regulations, supporting innovation, promoting energy efficiency, and these actions will help combat climate change, but also position Arizona as a leader in a clean energy economy. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate to speak is Joshua Polachek.
Thank you. I believe the ACC should be active in encouraging investment across Arizona's energy future. The current ACC, because of outdated regulations that are older than I am, is picking winners and losers in this space, and they are actively hostile to billions of dollars in investment in Arizona's energy future. Arizona has the potential to be the Alaska of clean energy, and instead we have a corporation commission who is saying, under the guise of reliability, that they are going to put their thumb on the scale and make sure that you, the consumer, are going to be paying more for your electricity because they want the utilities to have record profits. That's just not right, and the people of Arizona deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate to speak will be Leah Marquez Peterson.
Thank you. It's important that we have a diverse energy portfolio in order to have reliable energy at the most affordable rates. Using an all-source request for proposal means exactly not choosing winners or losers. It means that we are putting out that demand, that need that we have for reliable energy in the state, and having companies across the nation bid on those projects. We're seeing incredible demand in the state of Arizona. APS itself has said that they're going to see a 40% increase in energy demand over the next 7 years. So we see a lot of projects coming into the state. I mentioned earlier, I support the voluntary clean energy goals that our utilities have set. They are seeing requests for clean energy from a lot of the different data centers, semiconductor companies, technology companies that are coming to the state. So it's important that they're able to respond. We also do need to continue to develop our transmission. That was mentioned previously. Transmission projects are vitally important so that Arizona can continue to grow in all types of energy resources and clean energy. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Nina Luxembourg.
We need to be 100% active in adoption of clean energy. We have very little time left to solve our climate catastrophe. We need to stop investing in fossil energy sources and nuclear power plants and turn our attention to solar, wind, and geothermal. Yes, I am aware that geothermal has heavy metal emissions and release of carbon dioxide, but the CO2 is 1/6 that of natural gas. And there are already geothermal closed loop systems in the market that have almost zero emissions. So let's invest in research and development. What can we learn from other states? What can we learn from other countries? Kenya is 90% renewable. Munich, Germany plans to be 100% renewable by 2025 with 100% publicly owned utilities. Until we can store energy at a reasonable cost for cloudy days, non-windy days, and nighttime, let's take advantage of the fact that Arizona has areas that are geologically compatible with geothermal extraction. Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker in this question is Jonathan Hill.
So I think the ACC should be encouraging clean energy for all the reasons that have already been mentioned, but also because that energy is generated here in Arizona. Arizona is not the fossil fuel capital of the world. We have essentially no oil, gas, other fossil fuel resources here in the state. And so whenever we use those types of generation, we're sending our money, our jobs, our resources to other places, and that's not coming back to Arizona. So if we want to invest in our communities here in Arizona, we need to invest in the type of energy generation that we can do here. We know that we can do that with solar, we can do that with wind, particularly in the northern part of the state. And as Nina said, there are areas of Arizona that are compatible with geothermal. And with storage options now coming down significantly in price and that technology advancing very quickly, we no longer have a reliability issue or a time of day issue when it comes to these clean renewable energy generation sources.
Thank you, candidates. We're now moving to question 3. What are your plans to bring greater transparency to the process by which rate increases are approved? To lead off with answering this question, Leah Marquez Peterson, please.
Thank you. Currently, the Corporation Commission has a very strong system in which rate cases can receive public comments. Folks can dial in on the phone and give comment. They can participate on a WebEx. They can send emails that are then docketed in an online legal folder in a sense, so that all the commissioners and the public and the utilities can read their comments. So we really have a great system in which people can participate. We also require communication by the utilities throughout their territory when a rate case is coming forward. So everybody should be receiving written and social media and email communication that that rate case is coming forward and that we want them to weigh in. What we could do better and continue to improve are website improvements. We just launched actually this week a website update, which is exciting. And I'm sure there are going to be other improvements we can make to that website to make it easier for people to find their utility information. And we need to do more outreach to associations, chambers, elected leaders in the region so they know that the rate case is coming and that they can also weigh in. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Nina Luxembourg.
My plans are: 1, require utility companies to open up their books to a forensic accountant. I want to know what their operating costs are, their business expenses, how much are the executives making, and how much are they paying their stockholders. Number 2, they have to provide good justification for their request for a rate hike. Can they purchase new equipment with their own profits, or must this become the consumer's responsibility? And number 3, rate hearings need to be more accessible to the public. I know we have live streaming, but if you want to look at a transcript, you have to go to a commission office. You're allowed to Xerox only up to 20 pages, and you pay a fee for that. We should be able to upload the transcripts to the web. Sometimes they're hundreds of pages, and that way the consumer will be able to better prepare to make comments at public hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Elenia Aguilar.
Yes. So for me, ensuring that we have equity and transparency in the rate cases, because there are some utilities who cannot, especially like the small private water companies, who cannot afford to bring their cases in front of the commission because of costs. And then there's a lack of access of information and language access. I'm a Spanish speaker and English learner, and I know a lot of families who don't have like Wi-Fi in rural areas or who don't speak English. So there's a lot of things that we can do to ensure transparency, because there is no access to information and it's not available and readily in other languages. So we do need to ensure that we are serving all the ratepayers, not just the English ratepayers, and then ensuring that we have a process in place that is equitable, because a lot of small private companies can't go in front of the commission because of the expensive costs. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Mike Cease.
So rate increases are the visible face on the front end of utility company operations. I will bring, as commissioner, I'll bring to light what's under the surface. And for example, why are utility companies only beholden to their stockholders to maximize their company's exorbitant profits? Why aren't utility companies required to serve the people? Utility companies need to be evaluated by the metrics of fairness to their customers and what measures are they taking to solve the climate crisis, the energy crisis, and the utility components of the affordable housing crisis. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Jonathan Hill.
So I was just up in Mojave County last week, and they're very unhappy with the current transparency of the commission. As was mentioned, you can request to speak at one of their meetings. However, those speaking slots are only 3 minutes long, and the current commissioners didn't even show up to listen to their comments. So their comments were added to the transcript and to the video recording, but they don't believe the commissioners ever heard them. And so what I told the people of Mojave, and what I'll tell all the voters throughout the state, is I believe the commission should return to the practice of holding meetings relevant to communities in those communities. So if they're going to approve a huge rate increase on Mojave County customers, they should actually hold the meeting that does that in Mojave County to make it easier for those citizens to attend the meeting, speak in person, and at least have their voices heard when it comes to how much they're going to be paying on their electricity bills.
Thank you. The last candidate to speak to question 3, Rachel Walden. Oh, I'm sorry. It's Joshua Polachek, and he is not the last. My fault. I apologize. Unmute, please.
Yep. I just want to echo what my running mates, Jonathan Hill and Eleni Aguilar, have said. We've heard from our friends across the aisle that they feel that the transparency that the commission has right now is sufficient. But we would ask the people in Mojave County, the customers of APS, the schools around the state that just saw a massive 10% rate increase, if they feel that the process was transparent. This current state superintendent of public education, Tom Horn, a Republican, didn't even bother to put a rate comment on when there was going to be a massive hit to schools across the state with the recent increases with APS and Unisource. I don't believe that that's how transparency works. This is not how things should work in our democracy. We need to return the Corporation Commission to its constitutional duty of affordability, reliability, and safety for all the people of Arizona, and not just let's rubber stamp every rate increase that comes before us. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Rachel Walden, please.
I agree with the things that current Commissioner Leah Marquez Peterson said. There is a lot of transparency that happens. These rate cases, on average, it's a 19-month process. They can go higher than 19 months, and sometimes it goes lower. But we're actually worst in the nation for processing rate cases. The average process is 9 months, and compare that to 19 months. We're twice as long as any other state. But in that process, there's a series of public hearings, and the utilities let their employees and customers know that there are going to be public hearings coming up, that they can comment, and they can comment as long as they want. The 3-minute limit is in the commission meetings. The commission is the last stop in the rate case process. And so that's why it's limited to 3 minutes, because there are opportunities in those public hearings. And just to comment on what was said before, the price of energy has gone up 45% under Biden-Harris. 45% adjusted for inflation, it's 25%. So it is not the commission that's driving up rates.
So that brings to a close the responses to the question 3, and I'd like to thank the candidates for their answers. We'll move on to question 4. What are the top 3 priority issues for the ACC, and how would you address them? Our first candidate to speak will be Jonathan Hill.
I think the biggest priority for the ACC is what it always should be, which is the affordability of utility rates. That's what's hitting people hard. That's what's making it difficult for families, people on fixed incomes to make ends meet. So that's where their priority needs to be. We also need to focus on capacity growth. As was previously mentioned, we have a lot of high energy industries coming into the Arizona market, and we have to make sure that we have the energy to supply those. And it's going to take a large increase in generating capacity to meet those demands. And finally, the private water companies that have been mentioned, most of those throughout the state, there's over 350. Most of them are struggling. They are too small to effectively serve their customers, and everybody suffers the consequences of that. And so the commission needs to make that a much higher priority of sorting out this private water company situation throughout the entire state.
Thank you, candidate. Our next speaker will be Nina Luxembourg.
Number 1, groundwater shortage. Last month, ADIC issued a water permit to a foreign corporation that wants to mine in the Santa Rita Mountains. The company itself estimates 4.1 billion gallons of water annually. That's equal to the usage of 41,000 households, and for them, it's free. I would address this by prohibiting mining during a critical water shortage, and I want to review what is and should be the relationship between ACC and ADEQ. 2, railway and pipeline safety. Inspectors were laid off during the pandemic. What's the status now? And how exactly are pipelines and railways being inspected, repaired, and maintained? Let's try to avoid a toxic disaster like that which occurred in East Palestine, Ohio. I would address this by doing a full analysis report when I take office. And 3, utility rate hikes. Salaries are stagnant. People's budgets are stretched. I would put a moratorium on rate increases, eliminate fixed fees on utility bills, and institute sliding scale rates based on household usage. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Mike Cease.
Number 1, moral emergency. Conventional weapons manufacturers are supplying international war crimes and horrible atrocities. Nuclear weapons manufacturers are supplying the permanent war economy and moving us ever closer to nuclear war. Number 2, climate emergency. Agribusiness companies are practicing mega water waste. Mining companies are destroying the environment. Energy companies are thwarting transition from fossil fuel to renewable energy. 3, affordable housing emergency. Homeless people are dying with rental companies doing rate increases and evictions. All of these companies will be evaluated for their fitness to do business in the state of Arizona and sanctioned accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate will be Leah Marquez Peterson.
Thank you. With the high cost of living throughout the country and in Arizona, we need to be focused on the affordability of our utility rates. And constitutionally, we are required to have just and reasonable rates. So that's the priority as we go through all the various rate cases. We hear about 40 to 50 rate cases a year among the 400 utilities that we regulate. Secondly, we've all seen the headlines, California and rolling blackouts and the impact to them in terms of reliability from some of the choices they've made in energy resources and their overdependency on renewable energy. Because of that, we need to be laser focused on energy reliability, especially in the heat of summer when so many families would be vulnerable to electricity not working and air conditioning not being available. And then thirdly, there are a lot of other priorities, but I'd also mention small water utilities. I'm the vice chair of the water committee for our national organization and have hosted small water utility workshops, and we need to continue that work to do what we can to improve their processes.
Thank you. Our next candidate to speak is Rachel Walden.
There's definitely a lot of things, but my top 3 will be focused on customers. We need to do what is most cost effective for our families and businesses. And that means that we should not answer to special interest groups, to lobbyists and climate lobbyists, because the priority for everybody is cost. And we've talked about it a lot, but when we prioritize different energy sources, that is going to raise up costs when we're not doing the all source RFPs to have the commission be a check and a balance against those monopolies and making sure we're getting the best price. The other one is reliability. We do have to spend money hardening the grid. The industries that are coming to Arizona, while we're grateful for them coming here, they still need to pay their fair share for the upgrades that are going to be required to the grid as we build out the energy generation for those companies to operate. And then on the financial side, because the commission, they do regulate securities and investment enforcement, we're seeing cryptocurrency on the rise. And the staff of the commission that works in that division needs more training and support in order to stop those crimes.
Thank you. Our next candidate is Joshua Polachek.
The Corporation Commission needs to, there we go. The Corporation Commission needs to return to its constitutional duties of ensuring affordability, reliability, and security to the people of Arizona. You can ask yourself, open your bill. Do you feel like your bill has been fair and affordable over recent years? To get down to that affordability, we need to get rid of the outdated government regulations that allow the current commission to pick winners and losers, and that's why our prices have been going up. As Jonathan said, we need to also increase capacity to make sure that we are addressing the massive increasing needs as our economy grows, as we bring new people into the state. But we can't forget, and this is the third thing, the people that are already here. Arizona needs to finish electrification. There are too many communities, especially in our tribal areas and the colonias along the border, that are still not part of the grid. In 2024, that is morally unacceptable, and it is not acceptable in Arizona. People deserve better. So we need to finish electrification. Thank you.
Thank you. And Elena Aguilar, thank you.
Yes, number 1 would be rate protection. We need to ensure fair rates and reliable services for consumers. That is so essential. And I would do that by carefully reviewing financial and engineering audits conducted by the commission staff and listen to all stakeholders who have intervened in the cases and conduct my own investigation and ask tough questions to the utility companies. Number two, because I currently serve you on the Water Conservation Board, water is so important to me. Water sustainability, addressing water resource management is very critical for and ensuring that we are delivering quality, reliable water to all Arizonans, because we do have these issues along the colonias, rural areas where there are contaminants, lead, arsenic, PFAS, all these other issues. So ensuring being a champion for water. And lastly, ensuring that we are, there's transparency in billing. I think that the utility companies rely on automatic rate adjusters. So we need to ensure that we have, that we do not require rate cases, therefore far less transparent to the public. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. Question number 5. Describe the relationship between the ACC and the utility companies as you understand it. Our first candidate to speak to this question, Mike Cease.
Since I'm not yet serving as your commissioner, I'm not privy to the current relationship of the ACC with the utility companies. However, I can tell you that when I am serving, that I will make sure that these utility companies will be held accountable to you, the people. Utility companies doing business as usual without aggressive oversight from the Arizona Corporation Commission are operating for the sole benefit of maximizing their exploitive profits for their shareholders and not for the benefit of the citizens of Arizona. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Nina Luxembourg.
Utility companies are monopolies and need regulation. It's ACC's job to regulate by controlling rates and to protect the environment and consumers' safety, health, and pocketbook. Yet, 8% hike in March to APS customers, that's more than 200% greater than the inflation rate. $12 a month hike for TEP customers. And in 2025, GWR customers will get $7 a month increase. Yet, this private water company is not required by the commission to give rebates for gray water harvesting. However, the public water company gives up to $2,000. ACC gives denial or approval for transmission line construction. That I'm aware of, but yet there's little or no communication, as far as I know, with environmental or indigenous groups about locations. And I don't know which division oversees inspection and maintenance of utility equipment, because we want to avoid deadly wildfires that plague the California grid, that occurs when private utilities cut corners for corporate profit.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Rachel Walden.
The ACC is there to protect the ratepayer. They're a check and a balance on monopolies because our Arizonans don't have a choice in who their utility providers are. So the ACC is there to ensure that we uphold the Constitution that says that you should pay a fair and a reasonable rate for your services. So we're not beholden to the utility companies. We're beholden to the constituency, the citizens of Arizona. How we work with the utility company, though, is we do need to make sure that the utility is reinvesting in their infrastructure and that they're doing proper build out for the increase in energy demand. The ACC can punish utility companies if they're not being frugal, if they're not being prudent, if there's poor customer service. The ACC has the authority to document that and can reduce the return on equity. But we want our utilities to be healthy. Now, the way that return on equity plays, it's like a credit score. Our utilities have historical pricing. They use loans and investors in order to carry the business forward. And that score determines what kind of loans they get. And we need it to be low rate loans.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Elenia Aguilar.
Yes, public utility commissioners are tasked with safeguarding the interests of consumers by regulating utility rates. They ensure the customers are not overcharged for essential services like electricity, water, and gas, which are necessary for daily life. Utilities often operate as natural monopolies, meaning there is little to no competition. Without regulation, these monopolies could set unreasonably high prices. Commissioners ensure the rates are fair and reflect the true cost of providing the service, preventing exploitation. While utilities need to invest in infrastructure and maintenance, commissioners are responsible for finding a balance between necessary investments and keeping customer rates affordable. They ensure that utility companies are financially healthy while protecting customers from excessive costs. Regulation by public utility commissioners helps to promote equity by ensuring that all customers, regardless of income level, have access to essential services at reasonable rates. This role is crucial in preventing economic disparities and ensuring that utilities serve the broader public good. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate, Joshua Polachek.
Yeah, I would say the relationship is best described as the elected oversight. And I ask you, the voters, do you feel as if the Corporation Commission has been providing that elected oversight, defending you, the ratepayers, with these monopolies? I would think there's a lot of people in the audience who would answer that no, that they're unhappy. As commissioners, our bosses are not the utilities. Our bosses are you, the voters. Myself, Eleni Aguilar, and Jonathan Hill, we're going there not as career politicians, but as citizens stepping forward to protect our fellow citizens against these out-of-state owned monopolies and really the people that are behind them. Our job as the Corporation Commission is to make sure that the utilities, who are necessary and we want them to be healthy and strong, are doing the job and they're not doing the bidding of some out-of-state billionaires. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate to speak, Jonathan Hill.
As multiple people have said already, the utilities are one of the few areas in America where we still allow monopolies. And that is exactly what the Corporation Commission is there to regulate. The founders of our state back in 1912 were worried that without oversight, those monopolies could charge whatever they want for essential services, and that voters would have absolutely no recourse. And so that's why they mandated in the state constitution that we have a body like the Corporation Commission. And so, as Joshua said, it just is a matter of, do you think, as the consumers, as the customers of the utilities, do you feel that those monopolies are being properly regulated? Do you feel that you're being asked to pay reasonable and just rates? That's the legal requirement, legally and just. But consumers have to ask themselves in this election, do they feel that their current rates are reasonable and just? And I think the answer for a lot of them is no.
Thank you. And now, Leah Marquez Peterson.
Thank you. There we are. As past chairwoman of the commission, one of the first actions I took was to pass a code of ethics with my fellow commissioners. This was to keep the utilities out of the campaigns. We'd had issues in the past before I served on the commission. It also ensured and encouraged all of our candidates to run as clean election candidates, because that meant we were beholden to the ratepayers and not to the utilities. Our particular relationship with the utility companies is, as Rachel mentioned, it is oversight and checks and balances over the monopoly companies. We have access to full books and records. Our staff works closely with utilities as they propose programs, they work on capital investments, and we ultimately have the approval of those pieces. It is a professional relationship, and it's also important that we have relationships with the communities in which the utilities serve. So it's important that we're getting out about the state and talking to elected officials and organizations and residents and ratepayers in each of those territories. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates, for your thoughtful your thoughtful responses to each of the questions that we've had. That brings to a close our part 2 around the prepared questions. And we'll now proceed to part 3, the candidates' closing statements. Each of the candidates will have a chance for 1 minute to give their closing remarks, and we'll do that in reverse order from the opening remarks.
Mark, if I might
Yeah,
ask you to pause just for a minute. The time is such, we have enough time to give the candidates 1 minute and 30 seconds, okay?
Okay.
Give them a little bit more time for their closing remarks, and we'll let Andrea set it up. She's ready to go with the 1 minute and 30 seconds. Thank you for your patience, Mark, and thank you, candidates. With the time being available, we'd like to extend that time to the candidates.
Very good. So obviously, candidates, you have 1 minute and 30 seconds, and we'll start with Rachel Walden.
So Arizona was recently ranked second in lowest cost of overall energy, the lowest being New Mexico, and we're a top 10 in reliability. And that's what drives a lot of families and businesses to Arizona because of our affordable rates. Now, rates have gone up, but under the Biden-Harris administration, energy prices have gone up 45% when not adjusted for inflation. And when adjusted for inflation, it's still a 25% increase. They're closing pipelines. They're stopping the leasing on federal lands and other harmful decisions that are driving up costs for everybody around. That's why we have to support multiple energy sources. We can't just put all of our eggs in one basket. Energy prices also fluctuate every day, like the stock market. So the options, and the more options we have, the better our utilities are able to pick things to help meet the correct demand while doing it at the most affordable rate and still have those reliable services that we've all grown accustomed to. I have a strong financial services background and a strong background working in regulation. I'm currently on the Mesa School Board. I do have experience with boards and with open meeting laws and how to work effectively with other people. My skills and attributes will help for Arizona to be able to deliver results for our customers here, for our Arizonans, and not excuses that we so often hear in political campaigns. Thank you.
Thank you. Our second candidate is Joshua Polachek.
Thank you. And I thank all the voters who've taken the time out to listen either live today or later on YouTube. You're really doing your civic duty. It would have been nice to have some questions if all the candidates on this stage actually accepted the free and fair elections that we've had in 2020 and 2022 and that we're going to have here in Arizona. I suspect that my friends on the other side of the aisle cannot say that they will support the results of the election regardless of who wins. I just want to end with a quick story. I spent the last several days knocking doors all across Maricopa County, and I've heard stories of people who are having to leave the AC off at night because the rates are so high, about people who are trying to make it through one of the record hot summers, 100 days over 100 degrees. And they're suffering because the leadership, or the so-called leadership, of the Republicans on the Corporation Commission, and who refuse to look you in the eye and say that their job is to look after you, the ratepayers. Instead, they keep talking about how there's this and that, and we have to make sure that the rates just keep going up. That's not right. The people of Arizona deserve better. You shouldn't have to be when you're ready to retire, having to borrow money from your children and your grandchildren just to get through the hot summer months. That's not right, and the people of Arizona deserve better. Please vote for Joshua Polachek, Eleni Aguilar, and Jonathan Hill to change the leadership on the Corporation Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate to speak is Leah Marquez Peterson.
Thank you very much. Again, my name is Leah Marquez Peterson. I'm running to continue to serve you on the Arizona Corporation Commission. I'm very proud of the work that we have done on the commission over the last 4 to 5 years. I'm proud of what we've been able to accomplish. I'm proud of how we've been able to protect ratepayers throughout the state. Want to remind folks you cannot be disconnected for non-payment during the hot summer months, June 1st through October 15th. That is a policy that we put in place to protect ratepayers, so they aren't having to make any particular decisions that would negatively impact them. I'm also proud of the fact that we, as Rachel mentioned, are the second lowest in energy costs in the nation. That has attracted a lot of economic development to the state, as well as folks that are moving to the state, and has really helped out ratepayers, I think, in every county that we serve. We're also one of the most reliable energy grids in the nation, despite high energy demands. That's vitally important, as we have watched headlines in California with rolling blackouts and some of the issues that they have seen. We still have a lot of work to do. You're going to be hearing a lot of different things throughout this campaign as we round out the next 40-some days. But I think you really have a choice this upcoming election of whether we want Arizona to continue being a leader, or we want to go backwards by adopting California-style energy policies. And I hope you'll support myself for re-election, as well as Renee Lopez and Rachel Walden for the 3 seats for the Arizona Corporation Commission. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Our next candidate to speak is Nina Luxemburg.
During my healthcare career, I practiced in all kinds of businesses, solo and group private practice, private and public hospitals, and large healthcare corporations. And I have always placed patients over profit and advocated for affordable and accessible healthcare for everyone. When I am voted into office, I will bring the same integrity and priorities to the commission. I will work with my fellow commissioners to help bring Arizona to the forefront of technological advances for a clean energy future for all Arizonans, while holding corporations accountable for moral and transparent business practices in production of products and delivery of services that prioritize the safety, health, and economic security of you, your family, and our communities. I am Nina Luxemburg, and I uphold the principles of the Green Party: people, planet, peace over profit. Thank you, League of Women Voters of Tucson, for giving me this opportunity to speak my views.
Thank you. Our next candidate then is Jonathan Hill.
Well, thank you for having us all this afternoon, and thank you to all the voters who dialed in to learn about this important race. I'm looking forward, if elected, to bringing my technical skills to the Corporation Commission to help not just the big issues that we've talked about today, but to help with all the small issues, the day-to-day issues that just keep the commission running and keep all of our utilities accountable and serving the public interest. And I'd just like to close with asking all of you on the call today to do all of us candidates a favor, which is to talk with your friends, talk with your neighbors, talk with your family about how important this race is. I commend everyone who's on this call today. Thank you for becoming informed voters about such a often misunderstood and overlooked office, but that is obviously so important to everyone's pocketbook at the end of the day. So I encourage you to talk with people, encourage them to become informed voters about this race as well. Encourage them to watch this debate, our clean elections debate, and the PBS debate coming up this next week, so that they have a full understanding of what they as voters have control over and what their options are on November 5th when it comes to voting for the Corporation Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next candidate to speak is Mike Cease.
So in closing, I would like to gratefully thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum today, and specifically for their strong support of democracy. The so-called Clean Elections Commission has chosen to attack the democratic rights of all Arizona voters by excluding duly qualified Green Party candidates from their televised debates. My name is Mike Cease, Green Party candidate for Arizona Corporation Commissioner. As your commissioner, I will act to hold accountable weapons companies for supplying war crimes, nuclear armaments companies for supplying the permanent war economy, energy and utility companies for blocking the transition to renewable energy, rental companies with exorbitant rental rates and evictions. There are 3 seats to fill on the commission this year, and I would like to be one of your choices. Thank you.
Thank you. And then our next and last candidate for this section is Lenia Aguilar.
Thank you very much, League of Women Voters, for this opportunity. I would like to close with asking everyone who's present here today, are you happy with your utility costs? Do you want to continue down this journey? Because that's what's going to happen if you continue to elect the same type of candidates. We know that people are struggling to cope with the increases in energy costs and are having to choose between basic needs. We know that Arizona families and businesses statewide are noticing rising utility bills regardless of changes to their energy consumption. And we know that the primary contributor to consumer billing spikes is driven by the volatile and unstable fuel prices being passed 100% onto captive ratepayers. So I ask you to vote for Ilenia Aguilar, Joshua Polachek, and Jonathan Hill. We want to create that change that is necessary in Arizona, because families like mine can't continue to live under the current commission. We haven't seen any changes. I currently serve on the Water Conservation Board, and I have served in nonpartisan roles, and I have worked with people from all different ideologies to get things done for Arizona's. And I urge you to really look at every single one of us who spoke today and think about your decision. It's going to impact our future generations, and it will impact our pocketbooks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark, and thank you, Cindy, for doing an exemplary job in moderating this debate and navigating through the technology and enabling all of our candidates to give an answer. Thank you, candidates, for your participation, and thank you, audience, for your attention. I would also like to thank all of our league volunteers in the background who have done an awesome job making sure the timer works properly. Thank you, Andrea. Grace, for making sure we have the spotlights on the spotlighted candidates in a timely manner. And also to Cindy Hans and April Lewis for moderating questions in the Q&A panel. To the candidates, today you had an opportunity to present in a short time frame answers to questions that we have gathered that matters to our communities. We urge you to go to Vote for 1-1. An email invite has been sent to every single one of the candidates. As usual, please check your spam, if you will. We ask you to give a fuller response on Vote for 1-1 to the questions being asked. Your responses are yours. They're not edited. Our voters should have all the opportunity they need to hear from you as they review your answers and as they plan their vote for the 2024 November 5th election. The League invites candidates and the attendees to explore votefor11.org to learn more about the elections, the candidates, and ballot measures. Remember, your vote is your voice. Election day is Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. It ends promptly at 7 p.m. You will be voting for 3 seats in the general election on November 5th. The League of Women Voters encourages every voter to get informed and to vote all the way down the ballot. If you need information on how to finish your ballot, go to votefor11.org. Please share the recording of this event, which will be available shortly on YouTube under LWBAZ. This debate was brought to you by the League of Women Voters of Arizona, the state entity. We have 5 local leagues, and we are very proud of every single one of our local leagues where much of our grassroots work happens. Our local leagues are Central Yavapai County Local League, Greater Tucson Local League, the Metro Phoenix Local League, Northern Arizona Local League, and Northwest Maricopa County. We urge you to go to the website lwbaz.org and learn more about all 5 of our local leagues. The League of Women Voters of Arizona is very happy to bring these debates. Please go to our site to watch for additional debates and additional information about the elections. Have a great afternoon, and thank you all for joining us.